Welcome to the 5D Shift podcast with Openhand. It's where we take a higher dimensional perspective of the tremendous changes happening on our planet right now to make sense of them from an energetic standpoint so as we know how they're influencing, impacting our lives. We're working with a group of ascended masters that I collectively call Openhand so as to illuminate the pathway forwards. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at how in 2024, humanity, a broad swathe thereof, is crossing the karmic plane. What does that mean exactly? How is it going to impact all our lives? Stay with me. I'll be right back in just a minute. We've entered a pivotal moment in Earth's history. People in all walks of life are waking up and challenging the 3D shadow system. They're turning away from the fake stream, going inwards and igniting the passion of their soul. We're shifting consciousness into 5D. What does that mean exactly? How and when will it happen? Openhand is a higher dimensional ascended master consciousness working to illuminate the pathway forwards through the stormy transition. But this is never about telling you the truth. It's about offering essential insights into the shift, tools, meditations, and spiritual practice so you can realize your own truth. Because ascension to 5D is something only you can actualize for yourself. Get involved, explore, inquire, expand, liberate your soul. 2024 is set to be another monumental year in the shift because in 2023 we saw quite dramatic changes happening in the field all around us and on the surface of reality. So for example, we saw a gearing up of Gaia and an acceleration of her toroidal flow, which you can actually see in the spin accelerating of the Earth. We also saw crucial shifts going on within the various intervention layers underpinning the matrix in which we're all embroiled to some degree. We saw the healing of the Anunnaki and the removal of that level, and so that created a high degree of instability, which is really actually very good because it means the field is transforming itself and a new possibility can emerge through. So we saw that we were moving into something we can call the breakdown of materiality or the war on materiality, and you saw that reflected in the Gulf War taking place there. So we know that these big shifts happening, and we could expect that after the years leading up to 2023, the bogus pandemonium, as I call it, well, the identity layers within humanity are softening. The mind, the emotions, the physical body. Why? Because you can't trust in the machinations of society anymore. You can't trust in the mainstream media. You can't trust in big pharma or government. You can't trust in any of these different structures of society because they've all basically tried to derail and control and manipulate humanity. And therefore, what this does internally is it softens the consciousness. It's a good thing because you can't rely on what's going on out there. You have to search for, seek for your truth inside. You're more inclined to do that. And let's be clear, the only way that anything shifts on the planet right now is because we shift internally at a consciousness level. That's crucial now. We can pontificate all we want to about the machinations of the shadow out there, but if we're not shifting in here, no change is going to happen. Well, for many people, the breakdown of the identity ego and the fixation or the interrelation with the shadow has been a very positive development and change as we've gone through from 2020 onwards to 2023. So you could expect that coming into 2024, it would be a big year. And on the first day of 2024, we saw an M5 class solar flare strike the Earth's atmosphere and precipitate storms and an earthquake in Japan. And this was highly indicative of these tremendous cosmic galactic shifts happening both in the sun and the Earth. And this is a warning sign, a shot across the bow, so to speak, which is saying, wake up, because big shifts are happening. To my mind, not enough, not any, or very few of the alternatives and the mainstream spiritual movement are actually looking at the real truth, the real story of what's going on, which is this grand galactic convergence at a galactic level, solar level, and with the Earth pole shift. They're all converging, they're all moving together and creating great instability in the atmosphere of the planet. It's necessary because it's breaking down the old karmic construct. That is what we can call then the war on materiality. It's not actually a war, but it's as if the field itself is confronting, breaking down the old construct, the old materiality. It most definitely is. And so what this means is that consciousness in a broad swathe of people is ready to emerge, is emerging out of the identity layers, the physical, the emotional, the mental layers, first, second, third densities, and it's now expanding into the 4D astral plane, the causal body within us. And that's precipitating, it's activating karma that we must work through and process out. What exactly is karma? Well, you can imagine a stream which represents as a metaphor for the soul flowing down a mountainside. It flows over a boulder and creates an eddy current on the other side, and that then pulls in debris, causing density. And in a soul level, then the soul fragments into that eddy current, and it tethers you to an old reality construct. It means you keep reincarnating till essentially you start to process out that energy, that density. But there are two aspects to karma to bear in mind. This is essential. Firstly, there's the unrealized aspect of soul. This is where the soul gets stuck, identified with the physicality of life, and invests in that reality, believes in the illusion that's happening all around us, and so gets triggered and activated and tethered by it. So we're fixated by the reality as opposed to being able to extract from it, dissociate from it, and flow with the natural quantum field itself. So the soul is getting invested, it's getting attached, it's getting stuck and fragmenting. That's the first aspect, that's the most important aspect. But at the same time, it pulls in debris in the stream, it pulls in rubbish, twigs, froth, leaves, these kinds of things. And internally in our field, it pulls in emotional density, physical, mental. So you get pain, trauma, and triggering that tightens and gathers in our karmic field. That feels like pain, it manifests disharmony, can create illness, breakdown in the system. Even things like cancer, for example, are the effect of karma. I would say pretty much everything is the effect of karma. To be clear, there's no good and bad karma. That's an illusion, that's a misunderstanding. You don't do good deeds and get good karma, or bad deeds and get bad karma. That's the law of cause and effect, but it's different from karma. Karma is a natural process of the universe unraveling from density and realizing itself as the God source. And so where these tetherings, where this stuckness happens in the universal flow, in the flower of life, then that tethering, that pull creates distortion, density. It pulls consciousness in so as to explore, to equalize with, unravel out of. That's necessary. It's necessary for the enlightenment through the universe to happen. Now, I know that some teachers and guides at the moment are saying we don't need to process karma, we can just dump it. To me, that's a falsehood, an illusion, a misunderstanding of the natural process of life itself, the natural movement, the natural flower of life, the torus. That's a misunderstanding of what's actually going on. Because karma is the reason we are here. It's why we incarnated. It's what brought us back. Okay, there is something to be aware of called soul harvesting. What's that? And what's the difference between processing karma? What you have here is a matrix, an agenda, a synthetic reality, which has been created to pull the wool over people's eyes. You can't see it because it's acting in the fourth density, the astral plane, and projecting from there through our thoughts, through our feelings, through our emotions. So you can't see it, but it impacts through us. And so it creates reality in front of us for our very eyes that way. And so we're sucked into it, we're pulled into it. It's only when you dissociate and detach from it that you can see the impulses, you can feel them coming in, how they're dissonant with the natural orientation and destiny of your own soul. So as you detach and withdraw to some degree and watch, observe the information, the guidance is coming in through your system, you start to realize, wow, yes, there's an aligned energy coming through and a misaligned one, which is shaping my reality according to its agenda. That is the matrix. That is what we can call a synthetic agenda that's going on. We can also say and clearly see, as you unravel into these higher densities, that there are entities such as Ra, who is orchestrating, manipulating, controlling the matrix. If you like, pulling the strings of the various puppets beneath in the lower densities. And it's to harvest souls, bring souls into that synthetic agenda. So we've seen it in the bogus pandemic, where basically people have been, let's say, zombified to accept, to acquiesce to a particular reality. What it means is they disconnect at a soul level to some varying degree. And then when they pass on, the soul is drawn into a false bubble of love and light, a kind of all-encompassing, rosy, all-loving, apparently, except at the cost of the loss of freedom and sovereignty and free flow of soul. The soul is meant to flow unhindered through us, like the mountain stream, and to create abundantly around us as an expression of who we are. It's not about trying to create a particular outcome, but allowing the creations to manifest from within us, through us, naturally from the source within us. That is the 5D orientation of manifestation and creation. It's not just to sit back or to effort and grab for something, which is then spoon-fed to people who are setting intention. But whose intention is that? Only the smallness of the ego. That's the risk. That's the issue. You then detach or overwrite the natural destiny of the soul. And so the soul is duped into a consciousness, a collectivized consciousness through AI, through what's projected on the internet, through mobile phones, etc. The soul is duped, or the person is duped, into accepting that particular reality and going with the agenda. Let's be clear, it's a multifaceted agenda. It's very clever, it's very deceptive, because it's got different streams and different dramas that are going on within it. So it's sucking people in on multiple levels. Like, for example, you can say, the non-duality movement, which says we're all one, and therefore, why express your individual story? Your story is just a distraction. So just sit back and let it all happen and just witness, observe. Well, that's a distortion, a grand illusion or delusion of truth. Yes, we are all one within the physicality, within the separation consciousness. We're all interconnected. However, the soul is unique. as well. If there was not a unique soul having a unique expression, there would be no relativity, there would be no you and me. And so it's crucial to break down that energy, to break down that collectivizing consciousness by honoring your uniqueness through natural creativity, for example, so you feel the soul come alive in you. This is a crucial aspect to the journey of the soul, to the emergence, as opposed to being duped down the route of soul harvesting. So this is why it's important to follow the journey of the soul. And if we do, it's going to take us into our karma, because the soul is working to integrate from the tethering, from the fragmentation, and to realign with the flow itself. It's working to do that. And so therefore, as it works to extract, to emerge, it pulls on this tethering, which is karma, and activates it. And therefore, what we need to do is learn how to process that. We'll learn how to recognize it and then process it. So how do you recognize karma? Well, to be clear, it's coming up, activating inside of us, but it will project into the outer, because our outer reality is the manifestation, the crystallization of the journey, the movement of consciousness within. So as you travel onto the 4D astral plane internally, because you've softened the identification with the physicality, the lower 3 densities, because you've done that, consciousness moves onto the karmic plane naturally and then projects into your life. You're going to experience it in a number of ways. It's going to create disharmony and challenges for sure in relationships. Why? Because the soul is working to be more authentic and real, and this will create various confrontations in the relationships that have so far been established. Maybe people view you in a particular way. Maybe you have agreed at some level to accept judgment of you, of your limitation, of smallness, and acquiesced into that. But now the soul is saying, no, this is who I am, this is who I feel to be, and this is now a more authentic expression of who I am. And this is going to cause confrontation in relationships, because people are invested in you being the way you once were. They're kind of relying upon it. So you can expect there'll likely be challenges, confrontations in relationships. But what I would say is this: they're a healthy thing, not to resist or push them away, but to embrace them as compassionately and caringly as we can. Because what we're working towards is creating more authentic relationships, authentic in who we are, and requiring others to be more authentic in relation to who we are. Otherwise, it's a journey whereby we part company, and that's also going to be necessary with some people who just won't embrace who you're becoming, the more authentic version, the highest expression of you. They might not be ready to accept that. And so we must be prepared that some relationships will need to separate, break, and go different ways. Because at the end of the day, what you're looking for as a soul is to have those people around you that empower you, that reflect back to you who you really are, so that your soul is growing in fertile soil. If you're constantly getting pushback and negativity and projection, that isn't serving at all. And we need to be really careful to clear our environment to ensure that we have productive and vibrant growing space for the soul to express. So relationships will be a big thing where karma starts to activate. But also you'll start to see patterning that goes through to the past. So curious things that happen, incidents, circumstances that seem to catch you unawares and derail at various times. And these may have a pattern. It may go into ancestral karma as well. So you might see, for example, that your parents and their parents and so on we're exhibiting particular patterns of behavior, whether it be, let's say, poverty consciousness, because humanity's gone through many years, many generations of hardship. Or it could be lack of self-worth, because we're in a system that has created a class system whereby certain elites have more sway, more power than the masses. So that may have inculcated in the psychology of our parents and our grandparents. Or acquiescing, giving over power to our sovereignty to the systems of the state where they haven't necessarily proved their loyalty. So we might have ancestral karma to deal with like that. This is another area that we'll need to work with in order to process out. But also how we live and work, our careers, for example. So how we're invited to express. I mean, one of the challenges of ancestral karma is that of lack of creativity. Many people, many souls have been pigeonholed into a box and constrained, round pegs into square holes. Well, now people are breaking free and the soul is saying, I wish to express my uniqueness, my creativity, and to create for creativity's sake. So you'll find that your career may want to start to change as well. So these are all indications that you're passing onto the plane of karma inside yourself, and it's projecting into your outer life. This is something we definitely need to turn into and start to work with, because if you ignore it or somehow ditch it or try to or pretend it doesn't exist, it's going to bite you in the ass, it's going to trip you up, and you're not going to be empowered to deal with it. Crucially then, we must turn into it. That's the most essential thing. You recognize some disharmony is happening in the external, but then you look internally and feel internally, where is that impacting me? How is that impacting me? And you allow the feeling sense to build within you. It's not a case of suppressing, and that's one of the distractions, the derailments of society and the intervention, trying to pop the pill in order to cure the pain, but you've not dealt with the identification of the soul internally, because that's the true causality. That's what's creating the karma. Remember, I said there's two aspects. There's that of soul identification and the energy that builds around it. The energy causes the pain that we want to heal, but the true healing happens at a soul level. And so therefore, we must journey into the pain, into the discomfort, and really allow it to envelop us. Yes, I know it seems counterintuitive, counterproductive, but this is how we equalize with it. Imagine, for example, you suffered a great trauma in a past life, which we will all have done. You suffered a trauma and you've held that trauma in the 4D causal body. And the reason it's caused trauma is because some kind of identification has happened. Let's say in a wartime where you died on a battlefield. Well, it's still, even though it's a very traumatic situation, it's still an illusion of the physical, in the sense that you're not a physical being. So even though something happens to the physical body, you are a soul that at a universal level is able to mediate through that and any situation. That is enlightenment. And so we manifest these situations, these crystallizations, to invite the inquiry, well, who are you in this really? And so by immersing ourselves in the activating discomfort, then what happens is you get a chance to regress into those circumstances. You might start seeing reflections, synchronicities, signs that you don't quite understand. Let's say some wartime, let's say Battle of the Somme, or let's say Viking times, for example. And you might regress into those situations, or you might see synchronicities and reflections of them and wonder why it's coming to you. You might be drawn to a particular movie, for example. And so the synchronicity is telling you that potentially you went through that kind of existence, that kind of life challenge in the past life. So it's to feel it, to allow it to come up and work into it by equalizing with it. Because when you equalize with it, then essentially what you're doing is you're reframing the situation. You are passing through the eye of the needle and saying, this isn't me, this isn't who I am, it's just an experience and it doesn't have to define me. So I start to regress in. Now I can journey with that. I can relax the lower densities. I can come up onto the 4D astral plane and I can journey through potential situations and circumstances, and I can equalize with a whole sway, a whole raft of them, to accelerate the process of integration and healing of karma. That can be done. It's something we do a great deal in the open hand work. But if you're not aware of that, if you're on your own and you're working with it, then my advice, my recommendation is to allow it to come up, work with it, maybe get some help from a facilitator to take you through that process. But it is going to come up, and you can expect it's going to come up in wave upon wave upon wave as we sail onto the karmic plane in 2024. Now, there is something to be mindful of and careful of. Crossing the karmic plane is often likened to crossing the Red Sea and parting the waves so that we can unfold through into the higher dimensions. And there are many distorting, derailing, bushwhacking entities, shall we say, in the 4D to be aware of. And so we must be clear to be anchored internally and test all experiences. If you're persuaded just to drop, for example, the hot coals of the experience, if you're persuaded to get this kind of fix or that kind of healing, but without making the crucial self-realization, integration internally, then you have to be careful and aware that you might be being led astray in some way. So always testing how you feel about the circumstances and making sure that you are on a journey of self-realization through it. Now, we will get some help. In fact, we have recently in the Openhand work been made aware of a group called the Nordics, who, I mean, we've talked about other star-being nations, but this is a new one that's connected with Openhand. And they made it aware that they originally came from the Pleiades, but they suffered greatly here in the seeding of original humanity, where they worked to incarnate, but it wasn't successful. And so somewhere along the road, they were able to integrate more powerful warrior type draconian DNA. And that created this hybrid feeling sense within them, which is a very coherent vibration. And they're coming from 5, 6, 7D. And you may well feel them if you're sensitive, empathic. You may well feel them as an energy belt, an energy field that's empowering you in the higher densities, especially as you cross the 4D layer. So they have gathered, and they are here to support the journey of humanity across the karmic plane. So I would invite an inquiry. If they're there, call upon them, invite them to work with you, but be aware of the potential for deception, distortion from other entities. Does this energy empower you? Does it hold the space, a balanced playing field, so you can journey and process through? If it does, it's most likely benevolent, and therefore it's worthwhile to continue to work with them. But if you're in any doubt, you can just be clear internally and just say no and push the energy away. If it goes away, it'll be benevolent. If it sticks around, it'll be malevolent. So you already know what you're working with. So various groups are here, and I do realize, if you're not used to working with star-being nations, that it might seem a bit esoteric out there. But the more you work internally, the more you get used to the subtle vibrations. And it's these that we're really working to inquire into, to feel and become sensitive to, because they start to make sense. It starts to click. Once you work with a particular energy, And then it'll reflect, it'll manifest into your outer environment, show you signs and synchronicities, confirm for you what you were experiencing. So I was seeing symbology, for example, in the external, blue and grey, because their colour is a bluey grey, kind of like you could say a liquid metallic kind of sense to it. And that was being reflected in symbologies in the world around me. So that was my sense of the Nordics, what you might call the blue Nordics, but they're bluey grey, to be clear. So there are these groups, they do present as energies, and it's important that we start to really feel and sense our inner landscape so as to get to grips with what's aligned, what's misaligned, what might take you astray, what might be truly guiding you to your own realization. And that's the key. It's not about spoon feeding on a plate, it's about guiding you to your own realization. There are these groups there, they are here to support us, and humanity is emerging into the multidimensionality that we once had as original humans at the time of Lemuria. So yes, it does seem complicated as you're traveling, journeying through these different layers, but that's the invitation. Rather than being continually distracted by the drama out there, which is what the intervention is purposefully trying to do, it's about taking ownership in here, the subtle feelings, the senses that cascade in, and having them inform your awareness, and having them create the reality landscape around you. And if you do, what you're going to find is the external will transform for you. Now, to be clear, what do I mean by that? Yes, the 3D layers will still exist. Yes, the people around you and everything else that's going on will still exist. But how you interrelate with it will change, will transform. Because now you're not seeing everything so literally, but you're reading the metaphor in everything as subtle feelings, as perceptions, as patterns, flows that connect with signs and synchronicity. You're actually already weaving a landscape, a new one, a 5D, 6D, 7D one around you, and you're starting to interrelate more with that and manifest and create that around you. So it's like we're seeing two worlds, one superimposed upon the other at this time in this transitionary period. So this is what we've got going on, and that presents enormous opportunity, because where you break down your karma, as you transform it, then you unleash new aspects of soul that were fragmented and stuck in those layers. You reintegrate them, they become a part of your expression and your creative flow and potential externally. So you'll naturally find creative sense and feeling that wants to animate your being from the inside. You might feel to take up a new practice. Maybe it's music, maybe it's art, maybe it's knitting, sewing, maybe it's painting, maybe it's a sport or yoga or anything like that. And you feel to take it up, and it's an expression of who you now are. And the crucial thing is not to have an agenda or some particular outcome for that, or rather just to allow creation for creation's sake. Because then it's going to bring through these new aspects, it's going to help the soul infuse into us. And then it's going to create this new possibility, this new landscape around you. So this is the tremendous possibility of what's going on. And to support you in that journey, I felt to do a short meditation of how we might approach crossing the karmic plane. But to be clear, this is only a short demonstration of the work that we undertake. If you resonate with it, I do suggest you come and get involved with the Openhand work, because it is intricate and it does require some reflection and support as you journey through. So bring your attention to the breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And now as you exhale, a deep internal sigh of relaxation. So you're grounding, embodying right down to the base, and you're relaxing, deepening inside yourself. And then inhaling, exhaling through the nose, but with attention at the back of the throat. This is connecting you into the torus, connecting you into the presence of the source. It's all through your field, the vortex through your chakras. Let's relax the physical, emotional, mental vehicles then. So first in the base chakra, inhale, exhale through the chakra and relax. Relax the body down. Let it become more the sense of a wave of experience rather than solidity. Let it relax, let it soften. And then into the sacrum, inhale, exhale through the sacrum. Soften the emotions, relax the emotions, calm them. Feel that calming effect, like the ripples on a pond just becoming ever stiller. Solar plexus, inhale, exhale, onto the plane of mind. Imagine the mind as the sky, clouds, the thoughts just drifting across it. We're not trying to stop them, just to dissociate from them, just watch them. And now into the heart, inhale, exhale through the heart. This is the causal plane. Now you might feel some degree of triggering or tightness somewhere in your field. Maybe something is activated in recent days. Contemplate what's triggering for you right now. Feel it. Observe it, witness it. What's happening? Who's involved? Take ownership in terms of your own reactivity. How is it affecting you? Feel it, but witness it, observe it. There it is. Nothing is being done to you. You are creating, manifesting everything. Accept it. Observe it, witness it, center in it, anchor in it. Know yourself as the God presence through it. And now ask yourself, where was your attachment? How did you need reality to be a certain way? Maybe you needed to be respected. How about respecting yourself? Maybe you needed to be valued. How about valuing yourself? As a feeling sense, just feel that sense of worth. You are unique. You are irreplaceable. There is nothing to compare. Okay, there are similar beings, yes, but you're unique. Recognize your value in the full picture of life. Maybe it's because of a relationship and you are attached to a particular person. Your relationship, your true relationship, is with the divine internally, the completeness of that, which is then reflected into relationship externally. So feel, allow, sense the completeness inside yourself. Feel the wholeness. the divine connectivity. Trust in that. Allow yourself to be in your aloneness and not to grasp or need people externally. In which case, you'll attract people who are more of that vibration, who are more in that level of consciousness. It may take a little while, but that's okay. They'll be worth it. So sit in your own wholeness and wait for the right people of the right orientation to show up. And now, just opening the space for possibility to cascade in, a new venture, a new idea, a new creation, a new approach. Just open the space for that to happen and show me, ask, show me, because it will certainly be revealed to you. And so this is a brief indication of how we might access the 4D karmic layer, which is already starting to create externally, so we can take ownership and empowerment of the processes within it, so we can become a conscious co-creator. It's just an indication as to how to work, but we can also journey, we can regress into it on the 4D astral layer, and we can work with ancestral karma too, healing the lineage that goes all the way back through history, way back to our original human roots. And plenty of us here are here to work with that original seeding and that original karma. So my encouragement is to recognize we are in this process, another essential one within the great earth shift that's going on, and that it's likely to be impacting you, especially if you're tuning into this work. You're likely in that place where it's time to start transitioning through and working with these karmic regressions that come up. It's about turning into them, about taking ownership, recognizing how they're impacting our external life, and working internally to integrate through so we can attain greater harmony and more elevated relation with reality externally. So I encourage all to explore, dive in, work with it, and if you feel like you need support, do come and get in touch with Openhand, because we have bundles of experience of helping people transition across the karmic plane. It's going to be a powerful year for sure, with tremendous possibility for transformation. So I encourage you all to dive in and seize the moment. I wish you well. Namaste. Been inspired? Then get involved with the revolutionary work of Openhand. Join us on seminars and retreats, online and terrestrial, for groundbreaking meditations, illuminating self-realizations, and plenty of fun. It's all supporting the great planetary shift to 5D consciousness. Join kindred spirits today. Visit openhandweb.org.